Humans invented brilliant things, then waited way too long to explain them. Fact 1. The refrigerator looks simple now. A cold box where leftovers go to die beside a jar of mustard from 1998. But for most of history, keeping food cold was basically a luxury hobby. People cut ice from frozen lakes in winter, stored it underground, and prayed summer wouldn't ruin dinner. The real breakthrough came when science finally understood heat transfer and refrigeration cycles, how liquids evaporate, absorb heat, then compress back into liquid again. Early refrigerators were noisy metal monsters that sounded like they were planning revenge. Before that, people trusted cellars and luck. Imagine explaining to someone in 1850 that one day your kitchen would have a machine dedicated entirely to protecting half an onion and emotional support cheese. Civilization peaked when milk stopped being a same-day challenge. Fact 2. The toaster is proof humanity will engineer an entire machine just to avoid watching bread too closely. Before electric toasters, people literally held bread near fire using long forks, which sounds less like breakfast and more like medieval punishment. Early electric models were dangerous because the heating wires melted faster than people's patience on Monday mornings. Science had to figure out better alloys, especially nichrome, which could survive high heat without turning breakfast into a fire drill. Then came the pop-up toaster, because apparently standing there waiting was too much suffering for modern civilization. It uses resistance heating. Electricity fights through metal coils, gets annoyed, and releases heat. That's breakfast. Every morning we trust a tiny metal box to brown bread correctly, and honestly, it has a better success rate than most group projects. Fact 3. The umbrella seems obvious until you realize humans spent centuries getting dramatically wet before properly solving rain. Ancient umbrellas existed mostly for sun protection, especially in Egypt and China, because apparently shade was the original luxury subscription. Waterproofing came later when people realized carrying decorative fabric during a storm was basically performance art. The real science involved understanding materials, oil-treated cloth, tightly woven fabrics, and eventually nylon that didn't collapse like a politician's promise. Then engineers added collapsible frames with tension systems, because carrying a full carriage wheel above your head was inconvenient. Wind-resistant umbrellas came even later, after generations accepted public humiliation as normal. Nothing reveals character faster than wrestling an umbrella on a windy sidewalk. It's not weather protection, it's a portable test of dignity. Fact 4. The vacuum cleaner exists because humanity collectively decided sweeping was too much cardio. Before vacuums, carpets were cleaned by beating them outside with sticks, which looked less like housekeeping and more like revenge. Dust simply moved from one place to another, like office problems. Early vacuum machines in the early 20th century were enormous, horse-drawn devices parked outside homes, while long hoses snaked through windows like mechanical tentacles. The real science came from understanding suction, air pressure, and filtration. A motor creates low pressure inside, and higher outside air rushes in, carrying dust, crumbs, and evidence of poor life choices. Later, bagless systems improved airflow and convenience. Somewhere in history, someone looked at dirt and thought, what if I just aggressively inhaled this problem? And civilization politely agreed. Fact 5. The zipper solved one of humanity's quietest daily tragedies. Buttons taking forever when you're already late. Before zippers, clothing depended on hooks, laces, and buttons, which made getting dressed feel like solving a Victorian puzzle. Early zipper designs in the late 19th century were unreliable little disasters that jammed, split, or betrayed people at the worst possible moment. The real success came when engineers perfected interlocking metal teeth and the sliding mechanism that forces them together. It's simple physics disguised as fashion, controlled alignment under pressure. Later, plastic teeth made it lighter and cheaper, though somehow still capable of attacking your skin without warning. The zipper is one of civilization's most trusted inventions until it breaks, at which point it becomes a personal crisis, stronger than most philosophical debates. Fact 6. The microwave oven was invented because one engineer stood too close to science and accidentally melted his snack. In the 1940s, Percy Spencer noticed a chocolate bar in his pocket had turned into warm regret while he worked near radar equipment using magnetrons. Instead of asking fewer questions, he started testing popcorn and eggs, which probably terrified everyone nearby. The science is elegant. Microwaves excite water molecules inside food, making them move faster and generate heat from within. Unlike ovens, which slowly heat from the outside, microwaves go straight for the emotional center of leftover pasta. Early microwave ovens were huge, expensive machines used mostly in restaurants and ships. Now they live in every kitchen, trusted by millions to transform frozen disappointment into edible compromise in exactly 2 minutes. Fact 7. The elevator is the reason cities learn to grow upward instead of just spreading sideways like spilled coffee. Before safe elevators, upper floors were considered punishment. Rich people wanted ground floors because climbing 6 flights daily was not luxury. It was cardio with furniture. Early lifts existed, but trusting ropes and hope was not a strong business model. Then, Elisha Otis introduced the safety brake in the 19th century, proving that if the cable snapped, passengers would not immediately meet history. That single invention changed architecture forever. The science was simple but life-changing, a braking mechanism that locked the platform if tension failed. Suddenly, skyscrapers made sense, and penthouses became status symbols instead of exile. Every elevator ride today is basically us calmly trusting pulleys, steel cables, and collective denial. Fact 8. The ballpoint pen ended centuries of ink-related emotional damage. Before it, people used fountain pens, which were elegant until they leaked directly onto your shirt before an important meeting. Earlier still, there were quills, meaning writing required both grammar and bird management. The breakthrough came when inventors realized a tiny rotating ball at the tip could control ink flow more reliably. In the 1930s, Laszlo Biro refined the design using quick-drying ink and a rolling metal ball that transferred it smoothly onto paper. The science is surprisingly beautiful. Gravity, viscosity, and friction all cooperating so you can forget your grocery list properly. It's one of those inventions so ordinary we ignore its genius. Humanity crossed oceans, built empires, and still celebrated most when pens stopped exploding in pockets. Fact 9. The traffic light exists because humans proved repeatedly that giving everyone equal confidence at intersections was a terrible strategy. Before traffic signals, roads were a freestyle competition of horses, pedestrians, bicycles, and eventually cars driven by people with the optimism of a man reading no instructions. Early traffic control relied on police officers standing in the middle of chaos, manually directing movement and questioning life choices. The first electric traffic lights borrowed ideas from railway signals, using red and green to communicate universal panic and permission. Later, yellow was added because apparently society needed an official color for make a bad decision quickly. The science behind it involves timing systems, visibility, and human reaction speeds. Every red light today is a monument to one simple truth. People absolutely cannot be trusted to take turns naturally. Fact 10. The washing machine is proof that civilization advanced mainly because nobody wanted to scrub socks by hand forever. Before washing machines, laundry meant boiling water, scrubbing fabric on washboards, twisting cloth until your hands questioned every life choice, and repeating the process for an entire family. It was less a chore and more a full-time career. Early machines were hand-cranked wooden drums that offered only slightly less suffering. The real leap came with electric motors and an understanding of centrifugal force. Agitation loosened dirt, spinning removed water, and suddenly people had weekends again. Later, automatic cycles added timers and water controls because apparently even pressing 2 buttons felt like too much effort. Every washing machine today is a quiet monument to humanity saying, I respect cleanliness, but not enough to fight a bedsheet manually. Fact 11. The alarm clock was invented because trusting people to wake up naturally turned out to be a deeply optimistic mistake. Before mechanical alarms, people relied on sunlight, church bells, or actual human beings called knocker-uppers who walked around tapping windows with sticks. Imagine paying a stranger to personally annoy you every morning. Early alarm clocks were limited, often ringing only at one fixed time because apparently punctuality had subscription restrictions. The science behind them was simple precision: gears, springs, and controlled release of stored energy. Later, electric clocks improved reliability, and digital alarms made snoozing a formal lifestyle. The real genius is psychological, creating a machine specifically designed to be hated daily, yet never replaced. Nothing defines adulthood like setting an alarm at night and resenting your own past decisions by sunrise. Fact 12. The bicycle quietly changed the world by proving humans could become dramatically faster with just 2 wheels and questionable balance. Before bicycles, personal travel meant walking, horses, or pretending your destination wasn't that important. Early designs like the Draisine had no pedals, so people pushed themselves along like elegant toddlers. Then pedals, chains, and pneumatic tires arrived, and suddenly motion became efficient instead of embarrassing. The science is a beautiful argument between momentum, friction, and gyroscopic stability. A bicycle stays upright because physics politely cooperates as long as you keep moving and don't panic. Which, honestly, is also decent life advice. It gave ordinary people independence, reshaped cities, and indirectly inspired cars and airplanes. All from the simple idea that maybe sitting while traveling was better than suffering upright for miles. Fact 13. The electric fan exists because summer has always been a personal attack. Before fans, surviving heat meant opening windows, waving paper around dramatically, and accepting that dignity was seasonal. Wealthier people hired servants to fan them manually, which is less climate control and more historical arrogance. The breakthrough came with electric motors that could rotate blades fast enough to move air efficiently without requiring someone named Charles to stand nearby all afternoon. The science is straightforward. Spinning blades create pressure differences, pushing air across skin and helping sweat evaporate faster. It does not actually lower room temperature, but it absolutely lowers your willingness to start arguments. Ceiling fans later improved circulation and style, proving once again that humans will turn basic survival into interior design if given enough time and a hardware store. Fact 14. The camera changed human memory forever by giving people proof of vacations instead of just aggressive storytelling. Before photography, if you claimed your uncle looked exactly like a disappointed pirate, everyone simply had to trust you. Early cameras were giant wooden boxes requiring long exposure times, meaning portraits looked serious, mostly because smiling for 8 minutes felt medically unsafe. The real scientific breakthrough came from understanding light sensitivity and chemicals. Light passed through a lens, hit treated surfaces, and left a permanent image instead of just a strong emotional impression. Later film, then digital sensors made the process faster and cheaper. Now, people take hundreds of photos of lunch and call it documentation. The camera began as a scientific marvel and somehow evolved into evidence that, yes, your coffee really was aesthetically important. Fact 15. The calculator was invented because humans enjoy mathematics much more when someone else does the difficult part. Before calculators, serious calculations meant abacuses, slide rules, or staring at paper long enough to become spiritually tired. Merchants, engineers, and scientists all depended on tools that were accurate only if the human using them had not recently lost patience. Mechanical calculators arrived first, full of gears and clicking levers like tiny metal accountants. Then electronic versions transformed everything. The science relied on circuits processing numerical logic faster than any exhausted brain after lunch. Pocket calculators made advanced math portable, which was wonderful for students and deeply suspicious for teachers. It turns out civilization trusted tiny chips with arithmetic faster than it trusted most people with splitting a restaurant bill, honestly. Fact 16. The thermostat is one of humanity's most passive-aggressive inventions because it turns temperature into a silent domestic war. Before thermostats, heating meant feeding fires constantly and guessing whether the room was cozy or preparing for medieval bread baking. Early homes depended on fireplaces, stoves, and strong opinions from whoever stood closest to the window. The thermostat changed that by using sensors to detect temperature and automatically control heating or cooling systems. It works through expansion of materials, electrical switches, and later digital precision that could start family arguments down to half a degree. Suddenly, comfort became measurable and therefore debatable forever. Every household has at least one person who believes 72 degrees is luxury, and another who treats it like financial betrayal. Science created climate control, but also accidentally invented colder marriages. Fact 17. The stapler exists because humanity looked at loose paper and decided chaos had gone too far. Before staplers, people used ribbons, wax seals, straight pins, or the ancient office tradition of simply losing important documents forever. Early paper fastening methods were either decorative or dangerous, often both. The stapler changed that with one gloriously aggressive motion. Its science is simple but satisfying. Mechanical leverage drives a thin metal staple through sheets, while a curved plate underneath bends the ends inward, locking everything together like tiny prison bars for paperwork. Early versions were expensive and almost ceremonial, owned mostly by governments and people who enjoyed intimidating desks. Modern staplers are cheap, reliable, and somehow still capable of causing emotional damage when they jam. Few sounds in life are more reassuring than a clean staple. Few betrayals hurt more than an empty one. Fact 18. The flashlight was invented because candles were apparently too committed to starting house fires. Before portable electric light, nighttime movement involved lanterns, oil lamps, and the thrilling possibility of accidentally becoming a cautionary tale. Early flashlights in the late 19th century were called flashlights because batteries were so weak they only worked in short bursts like a tired employee on Friday afternoon. The real science came from combining dry cell batteries, conductive circuits, and a bulb capable of converting electricity into reliable light without also igniting your curtains. Later, LEDs made flashlights brighter, smaller, and almost suspiciously efficient. Now, they live forgotten in kitchen drawers until a power outage turns everyone into archaeologists. Nothing makes a person feel more heroic than holding a flashlight during minor inconvenience and pretending they are leading an expedition through ancient ruins. Fact 19. The escalator exists because stairs were judged too honest about physical effort. Before escalators, large department stores and train stations relied on people using their own legs, which management eventually realized was bad for both shopping enthusiasm and public optimism. Early moving stair concepts looked dangerous enough to require a lawyer standing nearby. But once engineers mastered synchronized steps, chains, and motors, the escalator became civilization's favorite compromise between walking and complete surrender. The science depends on linked steps moving in a continuous loop, guided by tracks that flatten at the top and bottom so people can dismount with dignity, or at least attempt to. It transformed architecture and shopping behavior forever. Entire malls survived because customers could glide toward unnecessary purchases without breaking a sweat. Truly, progress is just laziness wearing better engineering. Fact 20. The thermometer was invented because saying, "it feels hot," turned out to be scientifically embarrassing. Before thermometers, people judged temperature using professional methods like touching things and arguing. Doctors especially enjoyed diagnosing fever through dramatic forehead contact and confidence. Then science stepped in with mercury, alcohol, and eventually digital sensors, proving feelings were not a reliable unit of measurement. The principle is elegant. Substances expand when heated and contract when cooled, allowing temperature to be translated into visible movement or electronic signals. Early thermometers were large, fragile, and suspiciously decorative, like scientific furniture. Later medical versions became smaller and more personal, often arriving exactly when children decided they were suddenly healthy again. The thermometer gave us precision, but also created the universal household ritual of checking it twice because nobody trusts the first answer during flu season. Fact 21. The shopping cart is one of history's quiet masterpieces because it solved the universal problem of wanting more things than your arms respect. Before shopping carts, customers carried baskets by hand, which was fine until capitalism discovered bulk purchasing, and suddenly everyone needed 12 canned soups and emotional support crackers. In the 1930s, Sylvan Goldman introduced the first cart by basically attaching baskets to a folding chair with wheels, proving innovation often begins with suspicious furniture. The science itself is simple. Balance, rolling resistance, and swivel wheels that allow movement without turning grocery shopping into livestock management. Early customers hated them because they looked too much like baby strollers or wheelchairs. Eventually, convenience won, as it always does. Today, the shopping cart is both transportation and moral test, especially in parking lots where returning it reveals your true character. Fact 22. The pencil sharpener was invented because people apparently reached a limit on carving wood with knives before breakfast. Early pencils were sharpened manually, usually with pocket knives, which made writing feel unnecessarily close to wilderness survival. Teachers and accountants alike were one bad slip away from explaining bloodstains on important paperwork. Then came the pencil sharpener, a small machine built entirely around the idea that graphite deserved a more civilized entrance. Its science is delightfully mechanical. A blade fixed at the right angle shaves wood evenly while preserving the graphite core, and later rotary sharpeners made the process feel like operating a tiny factory. Electric versions added speed and the smell of overheated ambition. Few office sounds are as universally recognizable as a sharpener grinding away, while someone prepares to make very confident mistakes in permanent-looking handwriting. Fact 23. The garage door opener exists because getting out of the car in the rain to lift a heavy door felt like a personal insult from architecture itself. Before automatic openers, every storm began with the same ritual. Park, run, wrestle the door upward like a medieval gatekeeper, and question every life decision that led there. The invention of remote-controlled openers turned this daily annoyance into a small luxury people immediately decided was essential. The science combines electric motors, chain or belt drives, and radio signals from a handheld remote that politely tells the machine to do the lifting instead. Safety sensors were later added after humanity proved repeatedly it could not be trusted around moving doors. Now pressing one button feels normal, which is impressive considering previous generations literally fought their garages by hand. Fact 24. The smoke detector is one of the few inventions whose entire personality is panic, and honestly, that feels appropriate. Before smoke detectors, fire safety depended mostly on smell, luck, and that one neighbor who somehow noticed everything. By the time people realized something was burning, dinner or the entire house had usually made its final decision. Modern smoke detectors change that by using ionization or photoelectric sensors to detect invisible particles in the air long before flames become dramatic. One method responds faster to flaming fires, the other to slow, smoky ones, meaning science prepared for both disaster and burnt toast. Their shrill alarm is intentionally awful because gentle suggestions do not work during emergencies. No device in history has done more to protect lives, while also causing people to wave towels at ceilings in absolute betrayal at 2 in the morning. Fact 25. The barcode is proof that humanity looked at standing in line and decided even that needed automation. Before barcodes, cashiers typed every price manually, which meant grocery shopping depended heavily on handwriting, patience, and whether someone could remember if canned beans cost 39 cents or eternal suffering. In the 1970s, the barcode quietly arrived and changed retail forever. Its science is beautifully boring. Black and white lines represent numerical patterns, and scanners use reflected light to translate those patterns into information faster than any human could pretend to care. Lasers read the code, computers find the price, and suddenly checkout becomes less conversation, more efficient surrender. The first product scanned was a pack of chewing gum, which feels right somehow. Humanity's digital retail revolution began with minty breath and low expectations. Fact 26. The seatbelt is one of those inventions people resisted for years because apparently flying through a windshield felt like a personal freedom issue. Early cars were basically fast-moving optimism, with very little concern for what happened during sudden stops. People trusted dashboards, luck, and prayer. Then physics politely reminded everyone that your body continues moving even when the car does not. Seatbelts use simple restraint systems to spread force across stronger parts of the body during impact, reducing injuries by making Newton's laws slightly less dramatic. Early designs were uncomfortable and mostly ignored until engineers introduced the three-point belt, which made survival both safer and less annoying. Today, the click of a seatbelt is so normal we forget it represents science whispering, "I know you think you're careful, but let's not test that at 60 miles per hour." Fact 27. The can opener exists because canned food arrived before anyone fully considered how humans were supposed to access it, which feels very on brand for history. Early canned goods in the 19th century were sealed so securely that instructions basically suggested using a hammer, chisel, or perhaps emotional resilience. Soldiers treated dinner like a small construction project. The can opener arrived later, proving invention often means fixing yesterday's overconfidence. Its mechanism is simple. A sharpened wheel pierces metal while gears guide the blade around the lid with controlled pressure. Later handheld versions made kitchens safer and slightly less theatrical. Electric can openers added convenience for people who believed turning a handle was too close to manual labor. Few inventions say civilization more clearly than deciding soup should not require tools borrowed from a blacksmith. Fact 28. The windshield wiper was invented because driving blindly through rain turned out to be a surprisingly unpopular feature. Early drivers simply stopped when weather became inconvenient, or leaned out windows like detectives in old movies trying to negotiate with storms personally. In 1903, Mary Anderson designed the first practical wiper after noticing trolley drivers opening windows in snow just to see where civilization was. Her invention used a rubber blade moved across glass to clear water without requiring frostbite as a side effect. The science depends on friction, pressure, and materials flexible enough to remove rain without scratching the windshield like an angry cat. Automatic wipers later added sensors because apparently even moving one lever was exhausting. Today, every storm reminds us visibility is important, and so is respecting the genius of small annoyances solved properly. Fact 29. The doorbell was invented because knocking apparently lacked both drama and consistency. Before doorbells, visitors relied on pounding doors, shouting, or using door knockers shaped like lions, because subtlety was never architecture's strongest skill. Large houses made things worse, since a polite knock at the front door had the same reach as whispering into a hurricane. Mechanical bells first solved this with pull cords connected to actual ringing bells inside, giving guests a more elegant way to announce themselves. Later electric doorbells used circuits, switches, and electromagnets to create that universally recognized sound of either a package delivery or unexpected social obligation. The science is simple. Press button, complete circuit, produce noise, regret answering. Video doorbells modernized the concept, proving humanity mainly wanted technology to help avoid opening the door while still judging whoever was standing there. Fact 30. The ruler seems humble, but it quietly ended centuries of people measuring things using body parts and wild confidence. Before standardized rulers, length was judged by feet, hands, elbows, or whatever local farmer happened to have available. This was charming until someone tried building a bridge using Steve's unusually optimistic arm span. Standard measurement tools changed engineering from hopeful guessing into actual civilization. A ruler works through one radical idea. Everyone agrees the units mean the same thing. Wood, metal, and later plastic versions made precision portable, while science celebrated not having to argue whether a table was about this much. Architects, tailors, and students all depend on it, though students mostly use rulers to draw one straight line before losing them forever. Progress often begins when humans stop saying, "Close enough," and finally prove it. Fact 31. The remote control may be the most honest invention ever made because it openly admits people did not want to stand up anymore. Before remotes, changing television channels required walking across the room like some kind of historical peasant. Families accepted this until television offered enough channels to make movement feel personally offensive. Early remotes were wired, then ultrasonic models arrived, clicking commands through sound frequencies that confused both televisions and occasionally the family dog. Modern infrared remotes use light signals invisible to the eye but perfectly visible to laziness. Press button, command travels, authority is restored from the couch. It transformed not just electronics but household power dynamics. Whoever held the remote became temporary monarch of the living room. Entire family diplomacy has been shaped by this small plastic wand and its mysterious ability to disappear exactly when needed most. Fact 32. The credit card is humanity's most elegant illusion because it lets people feel rich for exactly 3 weeks. Before credit cards, shopping required actual money, which was inconvenient and frankly rude to impulse buyers. People used cash, checks, and the terrifying experience of seeing their finances in real time. Early charge cards appeared for trusted customers at hotels and department stores, but modern plastic credit transformed spending into a portable magic trick. The science behind it is less physics and more secure data systems. Magnetic stripes, chips, encrypted transactions, and banks quietly deciding whether your poor decisions deserve approval. It changed commerce forever by separating the joy of buying from the pain of paying. Nothing captures adulthood better than confidently swiping for dinner and later receiving a statement that reads like a passive-aggressive diary of your choices. Fact 33. The air conditioner is the reason entire cities became livable instead of seasonal punishment zones. Before air conditioning, summer meant sweating through shirts, sleeping badly, and pretending hot lemonade was refreshing. Offices slowed down, factories struggled, and people in humid climates basically survived by lowering expectations. The breakthrough came when engineers understood refrigeration could cool air, not just preserve food. By removing heat and moisture through compression, evaporation, and condensation, air conditioners turned physics into indoor mercy. Willis Carrier originally designed modern air conditioning not for comfort, but to control humidity in a printing plant, because apparently magazines were treated better than humans at first. Once people experienced cool indoor air, there was no going back. Entire architecture changed. Glass skyscrapers became possible, and summer stopped being a personality test everyone was forced to fail. Fact 34. The paperclip is proof that sometimes civilization peaks with bent wire. Before paperclips, people used pins, string, wax seals, or simply stacked papers and trusted fate, which is how entire governments probably lost important documents. The paperclip solved this with almost insulting simplicity. A looped piece of spring steel applying just enough tension to hold papers together without turning them into permanent art projects. Its genius lies in elasticity and friction, pressure strong enough to grip, gentle enough to release. It does almost nothing and somehow does it perfectly. No batteries, no updates, no subscription model. Just quiet competence. People underestimate it because it looks like something invented by boredom, but remove paperclips from offices for 1 week and watch civilization return to medieval levels of administrative panic. Sometimes the smallest inventions are the least replaceable. Fact 35. The escalator's quieter cousin, the moving walkway, was invented because airports decided walking to Gate 47 should feel like crossing a small continent. Before moving walkways, travelers dragged luggage through terminals with the emotional energy of people escaping civilization entirely. Engineers realized that if people could stand still while technically moving, public happiness might rise by at least 7%. The science is similar to escalators. Continuous belt systems powered by motors, carefully synchronized for smooth transport without launching tired passengers into duty-free perfume displays. It is essentially a treadmill with better public relations. Moving walkways changed travel psychology forever. People step on one and immediately feel superior to everyone walking beside them, despite moving only slightly faster. Few inventions inspire such instant smugness. It is not transportation, it is mechanized judgment with handrails and airport carpeting. Fact 36. The dishwasher was invented because washing plates by hand was ruining both evenings and marriages. Before dishwashers, kitchens ended with long negotiations about whose turn it was to battle greasy pans and suspiciously sticky forks. Early machines existed, but many worked with the efficiency of a lazy intern and the noise of industrial construction. The real success came with pressurized hot water jets, rotating spray arms, and detergents designed to attack dried pasta like a personal enemy. The science is glorious. Heat breaks down grease, water pressure removes debris, and racks organize the battlefield. Modern dishwashers even dry dishes because apparently wiping a plate became morally unacceptable. It is one of those inventions people dismiss until it breaks, at which point society briefly collapses. Nothing reveals household politics faster than a sink full of dishes and silence. Fact 37. The ATM is the machine that taught people to trust a wall with their money, which sounds insane until you remember banks once closed exactly when people needed them. Before ATMs, getting cash meant visiting a bank during business hours, standing in line and explaining your own money to a stranger wearing a tie. Then, automated teller machines arrived and turned banking into a 24-hour relationship with buttons and suspicion. Their science depends on encrypted communication, magnetic cards, secure verification, and enough mechanical precision to count bills without launching them into public embarrassment. Early users were skeptical because handing financial responsibility to a machine felt like asking a vending machine for tax advice. Now people trust ATMs completely, except when one pauses too long and suddenly everyone assumes financial collapse. Progress is just anxiety with better screens. Fact 38. The blender exists because humans decided chewing should sometimes be optional. Before blenders, making soups, sauces, or smoothies meant chopping, crushing, and generally arguing with vegetables by hand. Kitchens relied on mortars, pestles, and enough upper body effort to qualify as accidental fitness. Then the blender arrived, putting sharp rotating blades inside a glass container and politely asking ingredients to surrender immediately. Its science is brutal but effective. Electric motors spin blades at high speed, creating turbulence and force that break solids into liquids, purees, or regrettable health experiments. Early blenders were mostly used for drinks because humanity's priorities have always been suspiciously clear. Later, they conquered kitchens everywhere. Nothing says modern confidence like throwing spinach, ice, and existential hope into one machine and calling the result breakfast. Fact 39. The GPS system is what happened when humanity admitted asking for directions was somehow emotionally devastating. Before GPS, people relied on paper maps, road signs, and the dangerous confidence of someone saying, "I know a shortcut." Entire vacations were built around wrong exits, and marriages tested by folding maps and moving cars. Global positioning system technology changed that by using satellites orbiting Earth to calculate location through precise timing signals. It is basically geometry in space, which sounds far too elegant for something mainly used to find coffee shops. Receivers compare signal delays from multiple satellites and determine your position with astonishing accuracy. Yet somehow people still drive into lakes because the voice sounded confident. GPS gave us precision, but it also proved humans will obey a calm, robotic voice even when it clearly wants them to meet a river. Fact 40. The vending machine is civilization's boldest trust exercise because it asks you to believe a metal box will fairly exchange money for snacks. Before vending machines, late-night hunger required an open store, human interaction, and sometimes pants, all deeply inconvenient conditions. Ancient versions existed for dispensing holy water, proving religion and convenience have always been close friends. Modern vending machines rely on simple mechanics: payment verification, rotating coils or release systems, and the constant risk of your chips becoming permanently trapped behind glass like a museum exhibit. The science is straightforward, but the emotional relationship is complex. Everyone has stared at a stuck candy bar and considered mild crime. Few inventions create such immediate betrayal. It is not just a machine. It is a tiny capitalist casino where the jackpot is slightly warm chocolate. Fact 41. The umbrella stand exists because humanity created umbrellas first and only later realized wet umbrellas indoors behave like angry sea creatures. Before umbrella stands, people simply leaned dripping umbrellas against walls, where they quietly created puddles and turned polished floors into legal liability. The umbrella stand solved this with almost embarrassing simplicity. A container designed entirely for holding sticks that cry water. Its science is not glamorous, but it is practical. Gravity, drainage, and stable weight distribution, preventing a hallway from becoming an accidental skating rink. Some designs even include trays to collect water, because civilization occasionally remembers consequences. It is the kind of invention nobody admires until they step into a lobby during heavy rain and do not immediately break a hip. True progress is rarely dramatic. Sometimes it is just not falling near the receptionist. Fact 42. The shopping receipt is one of modern life's strangest inventions because it exists mainly to prove you did, in fact, buy your own shampoo. Before receipts, transactions depended on trust, memory, and the dangerous phrase, "I'm pretty sure I paid." Merchants kept handwritten records which worked beautifully until someone's handwriting looked like a medical diagnosis. Printed receipts changed commerce by creating portable evidence. Cash registers recorded sales, thermal printers spat out proof, and suddenly returning socks required documentation thicker than a peace treaty. The science is mostly mechanical and chemical. Pressure, heat-sensitive paper, and systems that preserve data long enough for you to lose it immediately. Some receipts are tiny, others long enough to qualify as historical fiction. Every receipt asks the same question: would you like proof of your bad decisions? And somehow, we always say yes. Fact 43. The elevator button panel is a tiny democracy where everyone immediately stops respecting democracy. Before automatic controls, elevators often had operators, actual humans whose job was pressing buttons and silently judging your floor choice. Once button panels arrived, power shifted to passengers, and humanity handled that responsibility exactly as expected. The science is simple. Electrical circuits send commands to motors, braking systems, and control units that decide movement with more patience than most people deserve. Buttons light up to confirm requests, though everyone still presses them repeatedly like panic improves technology. The close door button especially became a psychological support device, offering the illusion of control while often doing absolutely nothing. Few inventions reveal character faster than elevator behavior. Civilization hangs by a thread, and sometimes that thread is whether someone lets others exit before rushing inside. Fact 44. The electric kettle is what happens when people decide waiting for water to boil is an insult. Before kettles with electric elements, boiling water meant stove burners, open flames, and standing nearby pretending urgency made it faster. Tea drinkers especially treated this as a personal attack from physics. Electric kettles simplified everything by placing the heating element directly inside the water container, reducing wasted heat and dramatically improving impatience management. Resistance heating turns electricity into thermal energy, warming water faster than a stovetop, while also creating that universally suspicious silence right before the click. Automatic shutoff added safety after enough people proved boiling dry was apparently a hobby. It is one of the few appliances judged entirely by speed. Nobody praises a kettle for personality. Its only purpose is hot water now, and honestly, that level of focus is admirable. Fact 45. The bicycle helmet is one of those inventions people resist until gravity personally introduces itself. Early cyclists rode without helmets because optimism was apparently considered protective equipment. Roads were rough, brakes were optional, and everyone trusted balance far more than physics recommended. As bicycles became faster and cities busier, science had to step in wearing foam. Modern helmets work through energy absorption. Expanded polystyrene crushes during impact, spreading force and reducing the violent conversation between skull and pavement. The hard shell prevents penetration, while straps ensure the helmet remains involved in your decision-making process. Early designs were bulky and unfashionable, which people used as a serious argument against protecting their brains. Today, helmets are lighter, stronger, and still somehow considered negotiable. Humanity will wear sunscreen for clouds, but debate protecting the one organ making all the bad decisions. Fact 46. The escalator handrail deserves more respect because it performs emotional support at industrial scale. People trust moving stairs, but only after gripping that rubber rail like they are boarding a spaceship during turbulence. Before synchronized handrails, early escalators offered the thrilling possibility of your feet arriving before your confidence did. Engineers solved this by connecting moving steps and handrails through coordinated drive systems, ensuring both travel at nearly identical speeds. It sounds minor until you imagine the alternative. Your hand staying in yesterday while your body continues toward the food court. The science involves friction belts, tension systems, and precise speed control hidden behind polished panels nobody notices. Yet, everyone touches it instinctively. It is less a safety feature and more a public reassurance device. Civilization often depends on machines politely holding our hand. Fact 47. The parking meter is proof that cities found a way to charge people for standing still. Before parking meters, drivers left cars wherever optimism allowed, often for entire days, transforming downtown streets into personal museums of inconvenience. Businesses hated it, traffic suffered, and urban planners discovered that free parking creates stronger emotional reactions than actual philosophy. The parking meter arrived in the 1930s with one simple idea: time should cost money if your car occupies public space too confidently. Early meters were mechanical clocks powered by coins, tiny steel judges measuring your lateness with brutal honesty. Modern digital versions use sensors, cards, and apps, somehow making the experience both easier and more insulting. No machine creates such immediate personal offense. People will calmly pay taxes, then rage for 20 minutes over $3 demanded by a poll. Fact 48. The mirror is perhaps humanity's most dangerous invention because it gave everyone permanent access to self-awareness before coffee. Before polished glass mirrors, people relied on still water, polished metal, or the deeply unreliable feedback of relatives. Reflections were blurry, distorted, and honestly kinder. Glass mirrors changed everything by using smooth reflective surfaces backed with silver or aluminum, bouncing light with brutal honesty directly back at your face. The science is elegant. Light reflects at equal angles, but the emotional damage is entirely personal. Mirrors transformed grooming, fashion, science, and existential crises before important meetings. Entire civilizations improved because people could finally confirm spinach in teeth before diplomacy. Yet no invention has caused more dramatic staring at 2 in the morning. Humanity reached the moon, but every morning still begins with negotiating peace treaties with bathroom lighting. Which invention explained life too late? Decide below. Fact 49. The electric toothbrush exists because apparently brushing teeth manually became too close to medieval labor. For generations, people used simple brushes and trusted their wrists to perform tiny, repetitive miracles twice a day. Dentists, meanwhile, quietly built vacation homes from that optimism. The electric toothbrush changed the relationship by adding small motors that create thousands of movements per minute, far beyond what any sleepy human can achieve before coffee. Its science depends on oscillation, sonic vibration, and bristle motion designed to break plaque's emotional attachment to your gums. Early versions looked like power tools for extremely nervous people, but modern ones are sleek, rechargeable, and somehow judgmental with built-in timers. Nothing feels more humbling than a toothbrush politely informing you that 2 minutes of your life was apparently still too much to ask for proper hygiene. Fact 50. The escalator step comb plate is one of civilization's least appreciated heroes because it exists entirely to stop your shoelaces from entering another dimension. Most people never notice the metal teeth at the top and bottom of escalators, which is exactly how safety engineering likes it. Before these comb plates were perfected, small objects could get trapped where moving steps disappeared, turning everyday shopping into surprise physics lessons. The design uses fixed grooved plates that interlock with the moving steps, reducing dangerous gaps while guiding debris away from the mechanism. It is simple, invisible genius. Children still treat it like a boss battle, and adults pretend not to panic when a shoelace gets too friendly with it. Entire mall experiences depend on tiny pieces of metal quietly preventing your dignity from being eaten in public. Fact 51. The freezer tray for ice cubes is proof that humans will industrialize even laziness if given enough time. Before ice trays, getting ice meant buying giant blocks, chipping pieces off with tools, and feeling like a very disappointed 19th century bartender. Home freezers changed that, but ice trays made cold convenience personal. Their science is beautifully dull. Water expands when freezing, which is why old rigid metal trays were basically tiny domestic arguments waiting to happen. Later, flexible plastic and silicone designs finally admitted that people preferred not wrestling frozen geometry before drinks. Automatic ice makers went even further because apparently lifting water into a tray was unacceptable suffering. Few inventions are so small yet so emotionally present at every family gathering. Nothing reveals hospitality faster than hearing someone ask, "Do you have ice?" and your immediate internal panic. Fact 52. The revolving door was invented because normal doors could not handle both weather and human impatience at the same time. In busy buildings, traditional doors created drafts, wasted energy, and produced constant collisions between people entering with confidence and people leaving with regret. The revolving door solved this with rotating panels inside a circular enclosure, allowing continuous movement while keeping indoor air from escaping like expensive gossip. The science depends on controlled rotation, pressure balance, and enough mechanical resistance to prevent someone from treating it like carnival equipment. It also quietly forces social cooperation, which may be its most advanced feature. Everyone must move at roughly the same pace like a tiny democracy with polished brass. Few inventions combine architecture and life philosophy so neatly. Progress, apparently, is just learning to take turns inside glass. Fact 53. The humble measuring cup changed kitchens by finally ending the ancient recipe instruction known as just enough. Before standardized kitchen tools, baking depended on family instincts, suspiciously vague grandmothers, and emotional interpretations of flour. Cooking tolerated chaos, but baking demanded chemistry, and chemistry does not respect vibes. Measuring cups introduced repeatable precision using volume markings that allowed sugar, milk, and regret to be added scientifically. Their design depends on calibration, visibility, and the universal truth that everyone will still crouch to check if it is exactly one cup. Dry and liquid cups even differ because physics enjoys unnecessary drama. Entire desserts now survive because someone invented a handle attached to honesty. Nothing exposes human arrogance faster than saying, "I can eyeball it," before producing a cake with the structural integrity of wet cardboard and family disappointment. Fact 54. The lint roller exists because clothing apparently attracts evidence like a crime scene. Before lint rollers, people used brushes, damp hands, or denial when pet hair turned black pants into public testimony. Formal events became less about elegance and more about negotiating with your golden retriever's legacy. The lint roller solved this with sticky adhesive wrapped around a rotating cylinder, which sounds like something invented during a very specific breakdown. The science is basic adhesion. Loose fibers, dust, and hair prefer sticking to tacky paper more than your jacket, which feels like emotional betrayal but useful betrayal. Peel away one dirty layer, reveal another fresh one, and suddenly life feels manageable again. It is a tiny ritual of control before job interviews, dates, and funerals. Civilization runs on many things, but panic cleaning sleeves is definitely one of them. Fact 55. The garage parking sensor is what happened when walls finally demanded legal representation. For decades, drivers relied on mirrors, vague confidence, and the unforgettable sound of expensive contact with concrete. Reverse parking into tight garages was less transportation and more a trust exercise with terrible acoustics. Parking sensors introduced ultrasonic waves that bounce off nearby objects and return information faster than your pride can react. The closer you get, the faster the beeping, transforming physics into a soundtrack of escalating guilt. Cameras later joined the system, because apparently humans required visual proof that yes, the bicycle was still there. These sensors save bumpers, bicycles, and marriages conducted through passenger seat shouting. Few sounds create instant behavioral change like rapid parking beeps. It is the modern language for stop immediately before your insurance company learns your name again. Fact 56. The airport baggage carousel is one of the strangest public rituals because it turns adults into suspicious hunters circling luggage like exhausted wildlife. Before conveyor systems, baggage handling was slower, messier, and probably involved far more shouting by men in hats. Carousels changed arrivals by using continuous motor-driven belts to deliver luggage in a controlled loop. letting physics handle what customer service preferred not to. The system depends on synchronized belts, rollers, and enough reliability to keep strangers from stealing each other's identical black suitcases out of pure confusion. Yet somehow, everyone still stands far too close, blocking the view like luggage paparazzi. No invention better captures modern travel anxiety. People who survive security, delays, and turbulence will still experience true panic when suitcase number 40 arrives, and theirs is apparently exploring another country independently. Fact 57. The snooze button may be humanity's most emotionally complicated invention because it was designed specifically to negotiate with your worst morning decisions. Before alarm clocks added snooze functions, waking up was brutally honest. The alarm rang, and reality entered the room without discussion. Then someone invented a button that offered temporary mercy, and productivity has never fully recovered. Its science is simple timing circuits, delaying the next alarm by a few precious minutes. But psychologically, it is a masterpiece of false hope. You are not choosing more sleep. You are purchasing tiny installments of denial with interest. Studies even suggest fragmented snoozing can make waking feel worse. Yet every morning, millions of people confidently repeat the experiment like gamblers convinced today is different. Civilization advanced in many ways, but giving sleepy humans negotiable deadlines may have been our funniest mistake. Still, think modern life is simple. Tell me which invention secretly runs your entire existence.